This is Dan of Blue Dog Farms, head cowologist and chief mechanic, and I'm out here with the Takeuchi TB025 excavator mini-X, and I've got an issue with it. Behind me I was clearing some brush and it all of a sudden ran out of power. I attribute this to a dirty fuel filter. Now, I changed one of the fuel filters earlier, and obviously I needed to change the second one. But let me show you the fuel filter. So this is the fuel filter right here. It's got this little plastic bowl, and there's a cartridge filter in it. And you can see it's got some wire wrapped around it, and it's holding this little valve in so that it doesn't fall out. So rather than just change the filter like I did last time, I thought it would be a good opportunity to change the entire filter. So I got a replacement, and it looks to be the right one. All of the oh, except I got an extra hose here. Whoops. How's that gonna work? Well, maybe I can take it off and put on the other one. But other than that, it looks to be the right one. Yeah, see, this is really small, and these two are about 1/4 inch, or a metric size, I'm sure, being a Yanmar engine, which these two hoses look like it would fit, but this one doesn't appear to have a home. Everything else looks okay. So I'm going to attempt to take this off. Hopefully it's just threaded in there, and take this one off and replace it. And unfortunately they're all connected, and there's no way to get this off. It looks like it might spin off at first glance, but when you look at the back side, it's up against this flat plate, and it was probably pressed in, and then they put that in to hold it. So I don't think that's coming out of there. So what I'm probably going to have to do is plug this one. So I took the filter out of it, and I'm going to once again attempt to make it seal, and replace that later when I can plug the extra hole. Since I don't have a wrench big enough, just tap on this ring to unthread it. You see in the bottom of this, there's like gunk galore. I'm not really sure where that came from, but we're going to have to rinse that, clean that out before we put it back together. Alright, I got it rinsed out. I got all that junk out of it. It looks pretty clean now. That O-ring looks pretty good, still lubricated. Now the other one had a spring. Alright, so I got the spring from the new one to put in here. I don't think this one ever had a spring in it when I got it. So we're going to put the spring in there because I like to have clean fuel. Be real handy if this had a place to bleed. So I don't see anything real obvious. I don't remember what I did last time. I think I just turned the key on and let the fuel pump do it, the electric fuel pump. We'll do that again. Alright, you can see, I don't know if you can see it there, but fuel's coming into the new filter, so we'll just let it purge all the air out itself. Yeah, sounds like it did the trick. So just to reiterate, there was no spring in there. I didn't realize it required one. And so I'm concerned now that I've run some bad, dirty fuel or a little bit of dirt through my injection pump. So hopefully that's not the case. We'll keep our fingers crossed and start this up and see if this worked. I don't see any leaks, so we're going to go ahead and start it and run it a little bit and see how it does. Sounds a lot better than it did. Alright, we've got it home and ready to do some maintenance on it, including fixing the hydraulics and the fuel, hydraulic pressure relief for the thumb and the fuel system. But the first thing we need to do is clean it up. So I'm going to get out the pressure washer and we're going to get this kind of washed up here. Alright, so one of the things I'm doing is replacing all the fuel lines. I've got to pull the fuel tank off and clean it out. Just before I brought it home, the fuel line plugged up from something in the tank. I got it blown back into the tank, so it needs to come off and get cleaned off. And if you recall, I have to change the fuel filter assembly. I also got a water trap assembly that's missing on here, so I'm going to replace all the fuel lines, the fuel filter assembly, the water trap assembly, and get it all cleaned out, and hopefully it'll get back to work. But what I need to do is take these covers off and see how to get this off. And this is loose. I think there's a bolt gone out of it, so I'm going to have to fix that as well. So here we go. So for some reason my GoPro died, but I took off this big piece of casting here, counterweight, so I could get at this a little bit better. This is what they call a water separator. It does have a little filter in it, and got these two mounting holes. Now there is a spot to mount something down here. You can see it here. It's right here. There it is. It's right there. This doesn't fit down there very well. The hole in the casting for the piece is bigger than the bolt that goes in there. So I'd have to drill the hole out, and there's only one. And so what I have to do is mount it up here like this. So I had to take that casting so I could drill and tap that steel to get this piece mounted. It doesn't interfere at all with the fuel pump. So I'm going to get this mounted here and get this plumbed in. Alright, so one of the things I was doing is I put this thumb on, and I need a pressure relief so that when you curl the bucket up against the thumb, you don't bend the cylinder, either one of them. Something gives before something breaks, and so you need to put a pressure relief valve somewhere in this line so that when you push against it with the bucket, the thumb will push back. It'll relieve and bleed, and the cylinder will let it come back. And so that's what I've done. Here's the line in question. This is the line that needs to relieve. This is a valve. You open this little nut right here if you're running a hammer, which I am going to get for this machine anyway, for driving fence posts and breaking an occasional rock. So you open this, and this relieves the pressure out of here, and it goes into this line, and this is a return line, low pressure return line. So you don't have pressure going the wrong way on the hammer. The pressure goes through this line to the hammer and comes back and just relieves here instead of going back through the valve, and you can't put pressure here, it just relieves here. So I put this T in here, changed out this fitting and put a T in here, and then this return line, and this half-inch return line comes from the pressure relief valve. Well, the pressure relief valve is way back in there. I can touch it, but that's about it. You got to get it from the other side. So that's what it looks like from over here. This is what it looks like when you're trying to adjust the valve. Yeah. And so what happened is I'm trying to adjust that valve. You can see it right there. See the half-inch line coming off of it, and the new compression fitting and the hard line there? That's the pressure relief valve. And so I'm trying to adjust it because it was not relieving. And as it turned out, I had to back the spring out all the way, and then it unseated the relief valve, and now it works fine. Well, when I adjusted it back up, the cap that covers the adjuster, the adjustment screw, I dropped it, and it went straight down past the orbital motor into the belly. Which is down there. This is the belly pan that came off of there. Well, when I took that off, it was full of mud, because I mean the cap was gone. You couldn't even see the bottom. There's hoses and fittings in the way, and there's no way I was getting that cap out. So I had to pull this off to get it. And when I did that, it was full of mud, so two of the bolts broke off. So now, because I dropped that cap, see that pile of dirt I got out of there? Now I get to take this in, figure out how to cut off two nuts, and then go get metric replacement nuts and weld them back in so I can put that skid plate back in. Don't dare run it without it. You'll stick something up in there and break the orbital motor or tear off a line. So these are the two surviving bolts. I need two more of those. Actually, I need four more of those for something else. And nuts so I can weld them on. And when you're putting stuff together like this, I like to, you can use Never-Seez, that works too, but even just grease. If you grease the nut and the bolt when you put them in, chances of them coming out without being rusted. I mean, you can see the rust on this one, but fortunately it broke loose instead of just breaking. I'll probably replace these anyway, since, yeah. So instead of them breaking, maybe they'll actually come out. So I'll probably never seize or grease these when I put them back in. But in the meantime, I am going to change the O-rings on the thumb cylinder before I pull this in. Alright, I've got the excavator backed into the shed here by the welder, and I've got a cutting wheel on the little 4.5 inch grinder. I'm going to get up there and cut the old nuts off, and I have these 2 metric nuts that I'm going to weld in their place so that I can bolt that belly pan back on and properly protect the orbital motor. Alright, since I plumbed this, now this cover won't go on. This elbow sticks out a little further than what the original one did, and interferes with this bracket right here. So the plan is to cut along here and along here, not the whole way across, because it only needs to go to about here, about 3/4 of the way, and then weld in a piece of angle iron to cover it up and to keep the structural integrity of the piece. I'll find a longer piece that goes clear across, make it all look the same. started this project, I had a couple of goals. One is to redo the fuel system, which we did. We took off the fuel tank and cleaned it, replaced all the lines, and the water separator was added, and the new fuel filter was added. It's running great, by the way. And the other thing was to make the pressure relief valve work on this thumb. Now, the purpose of that is so that when you curl the bucket in and it hits the thumb, that the thumb pressure relief valve will relieve and this thumb will move up. In the past, in bigger machines, you have to worry about bending cylinders. If you don't have that, this machine isn't that big, so I don't have that problem. Although I suppose it's possible, but I've been pretty careful with it. But in the past, the weak link is this O-ring, and I don't know how many times I've replaced that in the last year, but I just replaced it, put in that pressure relief valve, and now we should be good to go. It's all greased up, all the oils have been changed, and she should be good to go for a little while longer now. So let me demonstrate the thumb. You can hear it relieve when the bucket comes up against the thumb. That's what's supposed to happen. Yet it relieves slow enough that I can still get a good grip on stuff with the thumb without it being too weak. So I'm anxious to get this out and put it through a real test. Watch that on an upcoming video real soon. I've got some land clearing to finish up. So this is Dan with Blue Dog Farms, head coologist and occasional mechanic. And you have a blessed day.